It's already the sixth day on the current war going on between Iran, Israel, and of course, United States of America. And if you have been following us religiously on this very channel, you will understand with me, or believe with me rather, that it has been an interesting time. A lot of heartbreaking stories continue to spring up both in Israel, in Iran, and some other neighboring countries which are considered to be the allies of the United States of America. There are a lot of developing stories which are currently trending on the internet space. Yesterday, I talked about why China remains one of the greatest losers from the current war going on in Iran because of their heavy infrastructural investment, both on AI, on energy, and so many others, which has been estimated by experts to worth around $100 billion. Today, as we speak, it is now in the public domain that China is sending a special envoy down to the Middle East, principally to begin the escalation of the war going on in Iran and begin to mediate and chart a new course for a peaceful dialogue instead of military action. Some other news are also saying that the Chinese government is currently fast-tracking the production of their submarines in order to have the capacity to attack the United States of American forces. Well, times are really very interesting. Before we go further to talk about, the doomsday missile testing that United States of American, Air Force has conducted in California, which is one of the nukes, which is considered to be one of the most powerful across the globe. And it is called the ICBM, Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, which is a deterrent for any type of nuclear warhead. Before we get into that very details, make una listen to this news. I dey come.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting that China is now accelerating production of submarines to attack the United States. Closer to home, writing, quote, China has been developing new submarine technology and a bigger, better fleet that is gaining on the United States and its allies, spurring a new undersea arms race in the Pacific. These subs that can strike U.S. from closer to home, the U.S. Navy is warning. Joining me now is Gatestone Institute senior fellow Gordon Chang. Gordon, that is some statement that the Navy has warned us about.
Yes. The Chinese, they don't actually need better submarines. All they need to do is stay close to their shores in what they call the bastion areas, like the Yellow Sea. But obviously, they do want subs to be able to get closer to the U.S. And by the way, we have Chinese submarines in the Arctic, which would be very, very close to Alaska and the homeland. So this is really an important development. And we have got to make sure that we have got the attack subs that can take out those ballistic missile submarines of the Chinese.
It's incredible. The Hudson Institute has reported that China armed Iran with advanced missiles. Every warhead carries Chinese components. We've reported on this program many times that China sends these components to Iran. The guidance systems, the propellant chemistry. China provided air defense systems to Iran. U.S. and Israeli strikes decimated them. And that China invested $100 billion in Iranian infrastructure. Clearly, China is on the side of Iran with all of this, and then they want to send a Mideast envoy to go condemn the attacks today. How do you see this?
Well, first of all,
Similarly, like I said from the introduction, as the United States of American government has tested this very doomsday missile, a nuke, which continues to raise dust from across the globe, many continue to speculate. Is the United States of America currently planning or trying to deploy this very intercontinental ballistic missile down to Iran? Well, according to the report we have gotten from the United States of American Air Force of the Global Strike Command, they maintain categorically that this very testing is actually for current and future technological advancement of that very nuke, that very intercontinental ballistic missiles, that it is not for any reason of deployment down to Iran, that this very test has been scheduled years ago before now. Make one watch the video.
Of the U.S. nuclear forces and provide confidence in the lethality and effectiveness of the nation's nuclear deterrent. This launch, designated GT-255, was scheduled years ago and is not in response to world events. It is a key component of a data-driven program that has been in place for decades, involving over 300 similar tests designed to validate the performance of the weapon system. The data collected from these routine tests is essential for ongoing and future force development. Today's test launch used a randomly selected intercontinental ballistic missile pulled from Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota. The missile was transported more than 1,300 miles and reassembled at Vandenberg Space Force Base, California. The ICBM was equipped with multiple targetable re-entry vehicles and traveled approximately 4,200 miles at a speed of more than 15,000 miles per hour to a test range near the Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands. The ICBM Test and Evaluation Program helps validate the reliability of the nuclear umbrella our allies and partners rely on, eliminating the need to obtain their own nuclear weapons to counter potential adversaries. The 56-year-old Minuteman III is based in Colorado, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, and Wyoming, and will be replaced by the LGM-35A Sentinel. Reporting from Vandenberg Space Force Base, I'm Senior Airman Kevin Hernandez.
Well, what is going on today in Iran has been predicted over 10 years ago, or even more than that. There is a video clip you're about to see shortly, where Marco Rubio, the current Secretary of State to the United States of America, more like a prophecy 10 years ago on what Iran is doing today, that Iran simply wants to get so powerful that the world will dread them, that the world will fear them the same way North Korea is currently being feared across the globe, because they have armed themselves with different calibers of nukes, nuclear warhead. And you know what that means? The existential threat, not only to Israel, but I can tell you categorically, according to so many experts, people from this part of the world, African continent, are also feeling the heat of many of these things. You begin to ask, how does terrorists, for example, in Nigeria, how do they get their money to buy more weapons and more weapons and more weapons? Apart from the fact that in the Nigeria of today, that ransom has become a lucrative, way of making money in Nigeria, kidnapping. These bandits come, kidnap people, and the government pay them in millions, and they in turn also use that money to acquire weapons. But from the onset, who was their sponsor? How did they generate the finances they were using? The video you're about to watch currently from Marco Rubio is going to be an eye-opener. Why what the United States of American government is doing today in Iran is inevitable. Not only because of Israel, but maybe, just maybe, for the world at large. More on, watch the video.
This deal have already been said. I do want to be recorded for history's purposes before I know what was going to happen in regards to this if it goes through. Iran will immediately use the money that it's receiving in sanctions relief to begin to build up its conventional capabilities. It will establish the most dominant military power in the region outside of the United States, and it will raise the price of us operating in the region. They're going to build anti-access capabilities, rockets capable of destroying our aircraft carriers and ships. Continue to build these swift boats that are able to come on us, these fast boats that are able to swarm our naval assets. And they'll make it harder and harder for U.S. troops to be in the region. They'll also work with other terrorist groups in the region to target American servicemen and women.